It is May 18th, 2021. We will now call to order the meeting for the City of Statesboro Council. Before we dive into our meeting, I do want to make a statement prior to it. Today is the first day in about a year that I'm conducting this meeting without a face mask. Per CDC guidelines, if you have been vaccinated, if you've been fully vaccinated, it is now safe for you to operate inside of a building or outside without a face mask. With that being said, we do want to bring to attention that for Bullock County, our vaccination rate is currently at 19%. I can't reiterate this enough. The fastest, quickest, safest way for us to get back to normalcy and us conducting business as normal is for us to do everything we can to encourage our family, our friends, our neighbors, and our loved ones to go ahead and get the vaccination. This is about keeping our community safe, keeping our community moving, and making sure that we're taking care of the people that we love. At this point in time, we'll move down to agenda item 2, the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Council Member Venus Mack.
Please bow your head. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. I pray that you watch over this meeting and guide the council on every decision that we make. Bless us as a whole and bless the city of Statesboro. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move down to agenda item 3, recognition and public presentations. Agenda item A is a presentation of a proclamation recognizing May 16th through the 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. The proclamation reads as follows. A proclamation by the Mayor and City Council of Statesboro, Georgia, National Public Works Week proclamation, May 17th through the 23rd, 2021, to Stronger Together. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Statesboro. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding and improving and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of the city of Statesboro to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now, be resolved, I, Jonathan McCullough, Mayor of the City of Statesboro, do hereby designate the week, May 16th through the 22nd of 2021 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join representatives of the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. I, in witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the seal of the city of Statesboro on this 18th day of May in the year 2020. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, Frank, tell us what to do. Somebody want a kid. There we go. There you go. You got it.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, I'll take care. I don't want that.
We got it. Thank
We'll move down to agenda item 3B, presentation of a proclamation recognizing May 12th through the 18th, 2021 as National Police Week. Being that we did not have a meeting last week, we did not want this opportunity to get by. We definitely appreciate what every employee does for us. We try to make sure that we recognize everyone accordingly. The proclamation reads as follows. A proclamation by the Mayor and City Council of Statesboro, Georgia, 2021 National Police Week. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which that date falls as Police Week. And whereas the officers and staff of the Statesboro Police Department play an essential role in protecting the freedoms and safeguarding the rights of the citizens of our community. And whereas there are nearly 60,000 assaults on law enforcement officers across the United States each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries, and whereas more than 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have died in the line of duty, the first recorded death in 1791, and whereas the names of the 362 officers who died in the line of duty in 2021 are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring. And whereas it is important to recognize the partnership that exists between the police and their community in order to ensure a high quality of life for all citizens. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan McCullough, Honorable Mayor of the City of Statesboro, do hereby proclaim the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2021 as Police Week in the City of Statesboro, and therefore extend appreciation to the members of the Statesboro Police Department for their dedicated work alongside our community, and call upon all citizens to take a moment to consider the responsibilities we place upon the shoulders of our law enforcement officers and to reflect on those officers in our nation who have died in the line of duty. In witness thereof, I, Jonathan McCullough, Honorable Mayor of the City of Statesboro, Georgia, herewith to set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Statesboro to be affixed this 18th day of May, 2021. So let's give our police officers a round of applause. Chief's a little bashful.
He didn't come, the attendants gonna come receive it for you.
There you go.
What do you do all the time?
Waste y'all's time.
Chief, how you gonna get out of there?
He's trying to sneak in.
Someone's going to get it for you.
I weighed 180 pounds when I moved to the south.
There you go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Okay, we'll move down to agenda item 3C. And I would like to thank the Bullock County Education System for helping me learn how to read. With that being said, we're going to go to our next one, which is a proclamation to CASA. And it reads as follows: a proclamation by the Mayor and City Council of Statesboro, Georgia, for CASA Volunteer Day. Whereas the City of Statesboro recognizes the problem of child abuse and neglected children and is committed to helping its victims, and whereas court-appointed special advocates Ogeechee recruits, trains, supports, and supervises community volunteers as advocates for children who have been removed from their home due to neglect or abuse in the counties of Bullock, Scriven, Jenkins, and Effingham. And whereas CASA volunteers ensure children's best interests remain the priority while working towards establishing a safe, stable, and permanent home for each child served. And whereas CASA has recorded as record of public service protecting the safety and the well-being of Ogeechee Judicial Circuit's foster children, defending them from harm, and ensuring they are provided with the court-ordered services they need. And whereas CASA establishes and maintains effective relationships with the juvenile court, Department of Family and Children's Services, and other children serving agencies and institutions in order to create a cooperative environment in which we best meet the needs of children. Whereas National CASA and GLL Association and Foster Strong are working with members of Congress to recognize CASA Volunteer Day nationwide. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan McCollum, Mayor of the City of Statesboro, do hereby proclaim May 18th, 2021 as CASA Volunteer Day in Statesboro and urge all residents to become aware of the work and mission of CASA Ogeechee. Let it be known that the City of Statesboro supports the education efforts to raise awareness of CASA program at the local level and the need for community members to provide a voice for the children in foster care. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand this 18th day of May in the year 2021. Let's give CASA a round of applause.
What happened? You too?
How are you?
Great. Got it?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 2, 3.
And Mark is going to
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. All right, y'all take care.
All right. We'll move down to the next item. It's not listed, but I will turn a little bit of time over to Mr. Penn.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt just a second. Lane, do we have a problem with Facebook? I'm getting messages that we're not broadcasting live.
We haven't been able to live stream, so I'm going to upload the recording once the meeting's over. We're having some
So it's not on
connectivity
YouTube or
issues.
Facebook right now. They'll have to wait for the recording. I'll be here.
I'll upload it once the meeting's over.
Thank you.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted the opportunity at the beginning of this meeting to introduce to you, several weeks ago, there was an article in the newspaper about a program that an effort we were launching to have interns from Georgia Southern, Ogeechee Tech, and East Georgia State College. And so our intern, the intern in the city manager's office, actually started work on Monday. And so I wanted the opportunity to introduce to you our intern. Our intern is Zakia Daniels. She's a graduate student working on her MBA degree. She's lived all over the world. I think her father had been in the military, so she's traveled, but she studied abroad and she speaks French fluently.
Okay.
She's a proficient in French. And so I'm probably going to embarrass her a little bit. She's a graduate of Georgia Southern, an undergraduate, and she finished with a 4.0 grade point.
A
So,
little bit higher, man.
I was always taught as I was growing up as a city manager, you're supposed to hire the best and the brightest, and you're supposed to hire people smarter than you.
Yeah.
So we have actually hired an intern that I'm very proud to introduce to you today. Her family lives in Augusta, but our hope is that after this experience that she will like Statesboro so much that she'll choose to live in Statesboro. This is part of our effort to keep this human capital in Statesboro as well. And so she, like I said, she's working on an MPA degree, and y'all will see her around working with us, and she'll be going to meetings with us. And so she started Monday, and she will work with us through the end of July or the first part of August. So, Zakia Daniels.
All right.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet
Welcome. Absolutely. I'm not biased towards the MPA program, but some great folks came out of that program. All right, with that being said, we'll move down to our next agenda item. public comments. Leah, do you have anyone for public comments?
No, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move down to agenda item 5, consideration of motion to approve the consent agenda. Item A is the approval of minutes from our budget work session on April 27th. Our council minutes from May the 4th, and our executive session minutes from May the 4th as well. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to agenda item 6, which is a public hearing to solicit input on the proposed FY 2022 budget for the city of Statesboro. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, if you will, Mr. Penny, will you give us a little insight into this?
Mayor and members of the council, we presented a budget to you on April the 27th. It is a balanced budget in all funds. It is a budget that totals $73,832,758. It includes no tax increase, no fee or rate increases at all. It does include pay adjustment to bring our pay plan. There'll be a 3% adjustment for that. And it also would include pay for performance for employees based on their anniversary date. The budget also includes 9 additional positions in the fire department. And in addition to that, we are applying for a SAFER grant for 12 additional firefighters. In the fire fund, one of the benefits to working out a long-term agreement with Bullock County, we are going to see this year they're in the fire district, they're paying $1.8 million, and they're going to increase that to $2.25 million, and that $2.25 million will benefit us in the fire department from being able to help pay for the additional firefighters. And we will also need to use some fund balance in order to cover that first year. We do recommend the budget to you. The capital improvement plans are all included, and overall, I believe it's a good budget with no increases.
Thank you, Mr. Penny. All right, is there anyone here to speak for the request? Is there anyone here to speak against the request? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll open this up for council discussion. Any discussion by council? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
I'm sorry, I should have took that off. You don't have to approve anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. Thank you.
Sorry.
It should be on the first meeting.
We're trying to get it over. All right, we move down to agenda item 7. Second reading and consideration of a motion to approve ordinance 2021-02, or ordinance amending the Statesboro Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Section 6-5 and 6-7E, extending eligibility for distance waiver permits to pubs and low volume licensees. Mr. Penny, if you give us some insight.
I'm going to defer to our city attorney. I'm sorry.
Mayor and Council, this is a second reading of those 2 cited subsections of the Statesboro Code of Ordinances, allowing extending the eligibility for these distance waiver permits. As it stands now, only restaurants are allowed to be considered for distance waiver permits. Those permits are given by council, and they're considered along with the actual consideration of the issuance of the license. I do just want to go over real quick what the difference between a pub and a restaurant is. A pub is an establishment that receives either between 40 and 70% of its income from the sale of prepared foods, whereas a restaurant are those establishments that derive more than 70% of their sales from the preparation of prepared food items. So what this would be allow that these pubs, which are still restaurants, but they're in that little gray area between restaurants and bars, they have a substantial amount from food and from alcohol, that they would be allowed to get these distance waiver permits, along with the newly created low volume license classification that would also be allowed to get these have full right to determine what the distance requirements are for on-premises consumption. There are state mandates as to retail package sales, but not as to on-premises consumption. So this is a home rule issue for the council to consider today. And like I said, this would just allow for council to consider these issuance of these waiver permits for pubs and for low volume establishments. What happens is when we have, especially in downtown, when we've got a church building somewhere, or we've got a drug rehab or DUI school like we have on the west side downtown, or like on the east side downtown where we have city campus big, what that does is that just kind of cuts off the eligibility for issuance of alcohol licenses in those areas. So staff does recommend approval of this, but like I said, this will just allow the council further discretion in issuance of alcohol licenses moving forward.
All right, thank you. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move down. Oh, all those opposed?
No, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Okay. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right, Leah, you got that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You throwing me off here, John. Sorry. All right, we move down to agenda item 8, public hearing consideration of a motion to approve application for an alcohol license, section 6-5, side 218, incorporated doing business as Sim Food Store at 218 North Main Street, Statesboro, Georgia 30458, owner Wahika Amin. All right, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Planning and zoning, are there any issues? Okay. Chief Grant,
No issue.
Chief Broadhead,
No issue, sir.
all right, Kane,
No issues.
okay. Is there anyone here to speak for this request? Is there anyone here to speak against this request? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to close the hearing? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there any discussion by council? All right, seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move down to agenda item 8, public hearing consideration of a motion to approve. I'm sorry, number 9, public hearing consideration of a motion to approve application RZ 21-03-04 Val Knott LLC and PDC Statesboro LLC requests zoning map amendment from R4 high density residential to zoning district to the PUD zoning, PUD district. 64.93 acres of undeveloped property in order to construct 209 attached single-family dwellings and 30 detached single-family dwellings on Kawana Road. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Kathy, if you give us some insight.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Val Knott LLC and PDC Statesboro LLC request a zoning map amendment from the R4 High Density Residential Zoning District to the PUD Plain Unit Development Zoning District in order to allow for the construction of 209 attached single-family dwellings, which will be townhomes, and 30 detached single-family homes. Historically, the property has been open, undeveloped land. The applicant also requests changes to the conditions of the annexation, which was application AN 12-0901, which was granted in February 15th, 2013. Applicant's specific requests consist of the following. 1, request to remove item 1 of the annexation condition. This request relates to the installation of purple irrigation piping for reused water. Per the Public Utilities Director, this requirement has already been waived. 2, request to modify item 2 of the annexation condition, which is to modify the requirement for an 80-foot wide strip of land running from the adjacent property line to the south to Aspen Heights Drive, to Kawana Road, and convert it from an 80 to a 60-foot right-of-way. 3, request to modify item 3 of the annexation condition to build out this right-of-way to a collector road standards, including but not limited to road, curb, gutter, bike lanes, sidewalks, generally 5 feet wide. Instead, the applicant proposes to build out the roadway to local street standards. 4, applicant proposes to install all utility locations according to the attached utility placement detail. And the applicant must obtain, however, approval from the Public Utilities Director for this. 5, applicant requests an allowance from the right-of-way for a front building setback of 15 feet and to allow porches and patio within the building setback. To note, comparable zoning district setbacks require a 25-foot comparable setback from the right-of-way and do not allow porches and patios within the setback. Lastly, applicant requests that driveways and required parking be allowed inside the proposed right-of-way. This brings up a concern with cars parking on the sidewalks because the length of the driveway would not be long enough. The subject site is open, undeveloped land totaling 64.93 acres and located between Kiwanis Road and Highway 67. The property is directly adjacent to the existing Cotton Ridge complex and will require some development in wetlands for road right-of-ways. So with that, you can see the site is outlined in red. To the west is Fair Road, and then to the east, you can see Kiwanis Road on the eastern boundary. The future land use plan calls for this area to be a developing urban neighborhood area, so it's consistent. The zoning map shows the existing zoning, which is the R4, and again, they're looking to convert that to a PUD. The left photo shows the subject site. The photo on the right shows the property to the east. The left photo shows property to the south, and the right photo shows property on the western side. This is the site plan. You can see that the development on the east side represents the townhomes, and then on the far west side, you're looking at the proposed single-family homes. The pink line shows the designated right-of-way for this 60-foot right-of-way. The next slide shows the utility placement detail, which they have asked to be utilized for this development, which would be subject to the Public Utilities Director approval. Staff recommends that application RZ 21-0304 be denied due to lack of consistency with the annexation conditions of AN 12-0901. Specifically, applicant has requested that the condition requiring a dedicated 80-foot right-of-way from the existing terminus of Aspen Heights Drive to the proposed intersection with Kiwanis Road be modified as follows. Instead, to construct a 60-foot right-of-way or local street instead of the 80-foot right-of-way or collector road. From a transportation system perspective, losing the opportunity to construct a collector road serving existing and proposed development in the area would create a future system failure in terms of its impact on traffic flow, as well as intersection level of service. Finally, from a safety perspective, staff recommends a straighter alignment with less curves and encourages that housing and driveways be constructed on local side streets connecting to Aspen Heights Drive, rather than on the street itself. If this petition is approved by the Mayor and City Council, it should be subject to the applicant's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. 1, approval of the zoning map amendment does not grant the right to begin construction on this site. All development must be approved by the city. 2, all subdivision regulations as per Article 4, Section 4.3, subsection 13, must be adhered to, including prior approval by the city engineer of the proposed connector road alignment. 3, per review of the applicant's traffic study by the Georgia Department of Transportation, adequate implementation of their recommendations will need to be addressed and approved by the city engineer. 4, condition 1 of the annexation, which was number 12-0901, be removed as it is now unnecessary for the municipal reclaimed water system. And 5, setback requirements from the roadway must be approved by the Director of Public Utilities for utility installation. At the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission on May 4th, 2021, the Commission voted to approve the zoning map amendment with the following conditions, with a 4-0 vote. 1, removal of item 1 AN 12-0901 in its entirety, which removes the requirement to install the purple irrigation piping. 2, modify item 2 of AN 12-0901 to reduce the requirement for an 80-foot wide strip of land to require a 60-foot wide strip of land for use as a city-owned and maintained right-of-way. The proposed route is from the existing terminus of Aspen Heights Drive to the proposed intersection with Kiwanis Road and is depicted in the attached exhibit. And again, that was shown on the site plan that you saw. It was outlined in pink. 3, modify item 3 of AN 12-0901 to state the proposed roads will meet the intent of the City of Statesboro subdivision ordinance for a local street. 4, all utility installations shall be installed according to the attached utility placement detail. 5, the front building setback shall be 15 feet as measured from the proposed right-of-way to the front building facade. Porches and patios shall be allowed inside the building setback. 6, driveways and subsequent parking shall be allowed inside the proposed right-of-ways. 7, approval of this zoning map amendment does not grant the right to begin construction on the site. All development must be approved by the city. 8, all subdivision regulations as per Article 4, Section 4.3, Subsection 13 must be adhered to, including prior approval by the city engineer of the proposed local street alignment. Mr. Mayor, that's my presentation.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there anyone here to speak for the request? Please state your name.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Francis Johnson, along with Steve Rushing, here to make a presentation for the community developers in support of this amendment to the zoning maps. Additionally, tonight, after I lay some foundation, Joey Maxwell will come up and frame up the request from a technical and engineering standpoint if you have any questions. And then I pray that the council will hear from Keely Fennell, who's one of the community builders at the heart of this plan, about how we work together to move Statesboro forward in terms of getting some additional housing. Some housing that Ms. Daniels can move into when she decides to take up residence here in Statesboro. It's not 15 to 20 years old. That's the last real community subdivision we've had built here in Statesboro. And then finally, cleaning up, as he says, Steve Rushing will come up and talk about where we go from here if you decline this request and what that means. Before we really get into the technical pieces, I want you to know that I'm here because I believe that housing is absolutely essential to Statesboro flourishing. And we want that. I know we all want that. And from every economic study that I reviewed in terms of trying to press for housing as a right, the sturdiest rung on the ladder of economic mobility besides a high quality education is good housing. As I was preparing to come here tonight, I reflected on a book that I'm reading. I'm re-examining the works of Toni Morrison, and I commend her to all of you all. And I'm on this book called Home, as a matter of fact. It's a story of Frank who has to come back to a small city in Georgia after the Korean War and really deal with the demons from his city. But in quoting Toni, Maya Angelou, in reflecting on her own home, says that every heart aches for a home, a place where we can be as we are and that we are not questioned. Statesboro needs additional housing. This is a very good plan. And your commitment as a council is not to some fidelity to annexation conditions adopted years ago, especially in the changing climate, economic and otherwise, but to serve this present age. And this development is a fair compromise with the conditions, reasonable accommodations for the community developers to allow us to get to that place. Joey Maxwell is coming up and can answer any questions from a technical aspect as it relates to the setback or the amendment in terms of moving from an 80-foot right-of-way for the road construction to a 60-foot.
Cool.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Joey Maxwell, Maxwell Reddick and Associates. Glad to be here tonight. Some of the things that was presented as far as the conditions that are being asked for, I wanted to explain those. The right-of-way being 60 feet is a normal right-of-way, as a normal right-of-way for the city of Statesboro. In fact, Rampton Avenue, you all know where Rampton is, where we have the Walmart, grocery store, shopping centers, office parks, apartment complexes, all that. That's a 60-foot right-of-way. That road functions fine. It has a four-way stop sign. I don't ever like stopping at it, but you will probably get me if I don't. But that stop sign is a way to calm traffic and make sure it's slow. That it doesn't go, people don't go speeding down the roadway. Another road in this instance is Buckhead Plaza. Buckhead Plaza is the name that stands out because that was the name of the development. But you know it more of the El Sombrero with the Gold Dome and that area where Sonic, KFC, Verizon, all that stuff is. That's a 60-foot right-of-way also. That's a 3-lane road in a 60-foot right-of-way. So that's why we're requesting 60-foot versus 80-foot. And what the original conditions were placed on this property was due to, we were doing an apartment complex. We were looking to develop a huge apartment complex, 1,200 beds. And the city asked for an 80-foot collector road going through. When we're talking about an 80-foot collector road, I did the current price on it is around 1.2 million. The problem with a developer building a road for 1.2 million, setting that aside, and then starting their work, it's hard to absorb 1.2 million in a residential development. In an apartment complex, you can absorb it because there's 1,200 to divide that by, so it's relatively small cost per apartment. That's why we need that condition removed and drop down to a 60-foot. The other item, when we're developing a residential subdivision, detached or attached, the road itself and that infrastructure that we're putting in, there's a value to that. We have to pay, the developer has to pay for the curb and gutter, the rock, the grading, all the utilities, the city sewer, the city water. Then they turn around, they have to pay a city tap fee, ATC fee, sewer tap fees, and pay all that in just to build a house. And in comparison in the county, they don't have to do that. That's why we don't have subdivisions in the city of Statesboro, is the cost difference between the city and the county are so out of proportion. And the thought process is, well, we have water and sewer, we can get more units in this smaller area. And that's true. We can. And when we're comparing it to our market here in Statesboro, and Mr. Riggs does appraisals, the appraisal value of our homes are kind of stagnant, but the material prices and everything else are going up. So it's a very thin margin, very dangerous margin. So adding, my point of that is adding the infrastructure of a 80-foot road and a thoroughfare, and then we start the development, it won't work. We would have to stay and build apartments. And as a community, I think we all agree, we don't need apartments. We need single-family homes, as Mr. Kenny said, and rightfully so, keep human capital in Statesboro. That's a great quote. I believe in that, and I've seen it through my 20 years of business here in Statesboro. Georgia Southern is a good catalyst for bringing people to Statesboro. But when they graduate, and I hire a lot of them that graduate from college and engineering, and they don't have a house to buy. It's very limited. So this project is a townhome development, and we don't have townhomes in Statesboro. We do townhomes. My company, we do townhomes in downtown Atlanta. We just laid out 300 in Lake Lanier. We do them all over the Atlanta area, but we don't do them here in Statesboro. Mm-hmm. This is the first project of this kind. The townhomes that we do in downtown Atlanta, for instance, when you go to those townhome developments, it's young families. It is young professionals that buy those townhomes. And the reason is it's affordable. They're young because they're stairs that go up. They might be 2 stories, 3 stories, or 4 stories in some cases that we build there. But here, these are proposed to be single story to 2 story. And single story allows us to get elderly folks into these units as well, because elderly folks don't want to climb stairs. Well, I'm getting close. I think I got an AARP ad sent to my house, so I still don't like to climb stairs myself. So when we're talking about townhomes, the townhome product itself, the reason for the setback difference and what we're looking at there, the idea that there's not enough room for a car to park is wrong. Because the road width in the city ordinance is 11 feet for a lane. An interstate lane is 12-foot wide. Even, even if they used a 12-foot lane, from the back of the curb to the front facade at 15-foot setback gives me 36 feet. 36 feet. I'm gonna take out 7 of that 36 for the sidewalk and a beauty strip. So I have a lot of room. A car parking space is 18 feet. So realistically, I need 36 to park 2 cars behind each other in the driveway. With a garage, I have 3 cars. So we're not parking in the streets. That's a bad design. We don't want to do that. That's not the intent. That's not why that setback is what it is. That setback is there because typically in townhome developments, there are no private streets. In private streets, there are no right-of-ways. There is no setback. We actually put decks on some of the products where the deck is over the top of the garage, the second floor patio. That's why I asked that be allowed in the setback. It's not because I'm trying to cram everything up against the road. It's just that's the way the product exists. Now, all municipalities throughout Atlanta on the back patio, they allow the back patio to be in the setbacks. Our ordinance doesn't address townhomes. And our ordinance needs to address townhomes in the future. It needs to be revised to add that item to our community. But right now it doesn't. And that's why we're asking for a PUD zone classification. That's the only zoning classification that allow us to do this and sell. In R4 that's currently there, we can build townhomes, but we can't sell without building 70-foot wide lots, or probably 75, be corrected on that, the 70, 75-foot wide lots. Well, then you got to buy 3 or 4 of them at a time. And so that defeats the purpose of making housing for young professionals for sale. We become, there again, rental. So that's why the requests are what they are on the amendments to the original annexation and the amendments to what staff has asked for. We're trying to find a happy medium. Now, what was laid out on the plan that y'all have probably seen where the red line goes through, that was the city street layout. And when we were asked to do an 80-foot right-of-way, we drew an 80-foot right-of-way around there and it was wiped out on the roads. So we said, well, how about 60 feet? Well, that works, but that road doesn't make it hard 90. There's actually an intersection there. There'll be a stop sign with stop bar where we stop, look both ways, and then turn right. That's to try to calm down the traffic and make sure that if anybody does cut through, that they have to stop, slow them down so they're riding through the neighborhood. I know there's a concern that people will be cutting through. I can't sit here today and tell you that nobody will cut through. That's just part of life. You build a road, somebody's going to use it. But we do not want to build anything unsafe, that's for sure. We don't want to put citizens in that position. That's why we have curves. It's called a traffic calming subdivision. In other municipalities, they actually have a code for traffic calming subdivisions. And they require us to put curves in the roads because that slows people down. It requires us to put, in some cases, speed tables. If we have long straightaways, we have to put speed tables. So they have speed bumps, but they're wide. But most of them require curves. And so we have curves in the road. We make them gentle and sweeping. We're going to have people speeding. And then that's when it becomes dangerous. So before you today is it's pretty, I call it simple. It's not as complicated as it sounds. A vote no to this project leaves it as R4. Leaves this project as R4 and its apartments. And you still have your 80-foot swath in the conditions, and you have an 80-foot road being built sometime in the future with a bunch of apartments. A vote yes with the conditions as they're laid out allows us to go build townhomes and make the project successful versus not. Because look, I've looked at this property for 10 years, ever since the developer bought the land, trying to figure out how to develop it with an 80-foot road. Every 3 years they come back, draw this in there, draw this in there. Duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes. And I can't make it work because I have $1.2 million that I have to absorb in the number of units. So the answer is to get more units. So that's what we have before us. Love to answer any other technical questions if I can, if y'all have any. I'd be glad to answer those at any time.
Okay, all questions will be taken care of during the council discussion. So I'll be prepared to come back up with council question.
Okay, I'll yield the floor.
Okay. All right. Please state your name.
I'm Keely Fennell. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us today. It's an exciting time in Statesboro. A lot of great things are happening. And the cool thing is I've been building houses and building subdivisions for 30 years. Yes, that makes me a little older, but it gives me some experience under my belt. I don't go in and put in neighborhoods that are not safe. And I want things that are exciting because I have grown children now. I've got a 23-year-old son who's working full-time and also going to school full-time. And he'll be out of school soon. But yet in our market right now in Statesboro, there's no place for him to go. So you know what? He wants to go to the coolest, latest, and greatest, so that takes outside of Statesboro, unfortunately. It is what it is. I want to build a concept that is a little different, a little cool, so that we can keep Georgetown professors in town. We can keep these young professionals coming in and staying in Statesboro. I want a development that is built locally with local laborers. Think about our local brick masons, our local sheetrock folks. I want those folks to be brought in from here as opposed to these apartment complexes that come in from Atlanta with Atlanta labor. They need work too, but right now I'm gonna take care of my folks here. But I think with us building local here, building a product that is so needed, there hasn't been one, y'all, in just 2002. It's time. And I think that the townhome concept is a good test market. And then I hope if we can work out this, that we can start bringing more development. I'm hoping that in time that we can work with staff and try to fine tune some of the ordinances that need a little bit of tweaking so that there are not these questions out there anymore. But it's a great project. I'm excited to be a part of it. And I hope you give consideration to the project. I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Steve Rushing to close.
Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. I didn't realize I would be following such good speakers, so I'll try to be brief. This proposed development that you've seen on the screen certainly meets a current housing need in the city. This development also meets the land uses anticipated in the future land use plan for developing urban neighborhood areas, which is what this falls under. And I was just noticing as I read that this afternoon, under the implementation strategies of this particular zone, streets should incorporate context-sensitive solutions to provide traffic calming and protect community character. Heard that already from our engineer. That's what we're trying to do with this project. I think you've heard the reasons why we can't develop this particular project with those conditions that was placed on the annexation back in 2013. Obviously, there was some wisdom back in 2013 with the implementation of those conditions to the annexation. But as you've heard, times have changed. In fact, condition number 1 has already been said is no longer even necessary regarding the reused water. We also submit that times have changed to address the other 2 conditions that have been an impediment to our particular development. Again, if there was a need for the higher density, like we've talked about, and Joy's been working on it a long time, this property would not have remained vacant ever since the annexation in 2013. There's been no development there. These folks are ready, willing, and able to develop this project. If we can open the way for them, that does mean making some further changes to those annexation conditions. And we just want to make it very clear that if we are allowed this project, if you really truly want this project, then we need those changes to those annexation conditions. Without those, there will be no project. And therefore, we would not want the rezone to occur without those changes to the annexation. We would retain the R4. So I'm here to tell you is if you just don't see that this project is what the city needs, and you intend to allow a rezone but not change those conditions, then we would have to rescind our application altogether. And with that, the development could not move forward. it would remain as is in R4, and perhaps sometime in the future, as Joey continued his efforts, we would find the right project for it. But again, it has not occurred thus far. I just want to remind the council also that this did just happen quickly. We've been working on this a long time, and in fact, we've made 2 trips to the Planning Commission. We came the first time, and at that point, we were looking to just delete those 3 annexation conditions. The staff, of course, presented their side of that, and the Planning Commission kind of told us to go try to get together, figure out something, and come back to them, try to make this project more viable. We did that. We worked with them. Our folks did make some concessions, and that's why now we're not looking for a deletion of those. We are looking at the deletion of annex condition number 1, but as to 2 and 3, we're looking for modifications. As our engineer indicated, from the 80-foot road to the 80-foot collector road to the 60-foot local street. And there's a big difference in this one. One makes it viable, the other one does not. Then as to the other conditions that the Planning Commission, I think they saw the wisdom in what we attempted to do. We came back with a modification and a compromise. And so I think you see that with their recommendation to this city council to approve what this development is being proposed as. They came up with, I think, 9 conditions, and I'm happy to say that we're fine with 8 of them. The last condition I think we couldn't be fine with is, and in fact, I think it was on the next page. It wasn't actually read out when the project was discussed initially, but we did come up at our developer's expense with a traffic study. We presented that to the staff. I think the staff has further sent that to the DOT, and they're waiting for some recommendations on that. So there's some unknowns there, but that is presently listed as condition number 9 to the Planning Commission recommendation. Because that has not come back yet, we've not able to see those recommendations from GDOT. We think that might be better set aside for the development stage and not the rezoning stage. So what we would ask this council tonight, if it would adopt and approve the Planning Commission's recommendation to this council in full through with their conditions 1 through 8, but to leave off number 9, and we'll just put that into the development phase. But we appreciate your attention. Again, we're all here to try to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak for the request? Please state your name.
Marcus Toole, and I'm with Habitat for Humanity. I want to talk to the larger issue. This is something I've been saying, preaching to the community for 2 or 3 years now. The setbacks, the lot sizes, they're too big. Just generally, they're too big. The sizes of the houses that we're requiring, they're too big. I've had conversations with Keely and talked about what are the issues that make it so hard to build homes in a way that's affordable, not just to low-income people, but to middle-income people. No one's building starter houses anymore, very few. Habitat for Humanity, we build 3-bedroom houses. They're 1,100 square foot houses. Mr. Riggs here can verify. To even evaluate the value of those houses is hard to do because there are no comps other than other Habitat houses or houses that are 50 years old. We have made it so that no one can build a house. The houses have to be mansions for someone to live in them. This development, as I see here, I'm no expert on it. This is the first time I've seen it. But this is a teaching, this is the sort of thing we want if we are just to bring the cost of housing, the cost of home, to something that people used to experience 50 years ago. To rein it in, expectations of what a house ought to be has gone beyond anything that any culture anywhere in the world has ever accepted before. Houses are too big, they're too expensive, they're too luxurious. Just a normal decent place to live is what people need. And our laws prevent us from building normal, decent places to live that the average person can afford. And so I would ask you to accept this. I'm no expert on roadways, but it does seem to me that this is probably adequate for what is being constructed. But I'm no expert at it. But I am knowledgeable about houses. And we need to allow for smaller houses on smaller lots with smaller setbacks. And we actually need this as a precedent. Because if we don't get this as a precedent, then it limits what we want to do all over Statesboro in building affordable, decent, homeowner-owned housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for the request? Seeing that there is none, is there anyone here to speak against the request? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll open it up for council discussion. Any discussion about council at this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank Ms. Fennell on all her efforts in trying to create something good for Statesboro. And also thank her and Mr. Maxwell for reaching out to me and being willing to answer questions and explain what they're trying to do. I also want to thank our staff, particularly Jason and Kathy and Mr. Penny, for trying to educate me about all the different issues. I'm in favor of everything that's been said here about the need for housing. I would love for us to put in a development like this that has single-family homes and townhomes. And I think there's a real market for it. I'm sure they could build them beautifully. My concern from the very beginning has been the fact that there's so much traffic out there already. And if we're cutting through, if we're encouraging people to cut through, that can create a real hazard. So that's been my concern about it all along, is that I know you build them safe the best you can, but we know that there's lots of people cutting through that subdivision to get to 67, that's not going to be safe. It's going to put more traffic in there than just the subdivision. So that's the concern that I have to share about how this is proposed.
Council?
Yes, so, I think one of the developers, I forget his name.
Maxwell?
Maxwell, yes. I think my question is directed towards you. So with the, traffic that will be cutting through, you said that you could implement something to kind of slow that traffic, like curbs, speed bumps, what did you call those? You refer to those as what? Calming measures. I should have remembered that as a therapist. I did. So you're able to implement those calming measures to kind of slow up that traffic. Is that correct?
That's correct. And on the screen here is the road network as it's laid out. As you can see, there's numerous intersections. What we would propose is making three-way stops at each one of these intersections, so there'll be a stop bar, stop sign, and they have to stop at those. Then they only have a little short distance, and they have to stop again. Another short distance, then they have to stop again. Trying to slow those down. Now, the curves themselves, we can round those out a little more, but the curves slow people down as well.
Okay.
Because as you go around a curve,
So to answer my question, that is a yes.
yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. Well, I don't have any other questions, but I do have a statement that I would like to share. And my statement is, this is something that I'm kind of adamant on, is the housing. We need housing. We need housing here in state, affordable homes. We don't have any affordable homes here in Statesboro. Not for individuals like myself. I consider myself young and, on the rise, and I'm not ready to get into a huge 5-bedroom home yet because technically I can't afford it at the time. But a nice townhome would be nice. It would be very nice. And it gives you that fervor and vigor to want to move on to something bigger and better, but it's a start. And that's what we don't have, is a start. So I am in favor of this project. if you can build this safely, because safety is a concern for me as well, if you can build this safety, I am in agreement with the project.
I do have a question. I wanted to ask, is this going to be affordable housing? Do we know at this point?
Right now, housing nowhere is affordable because the cost of goods are insane. So let's fix that. But the gold market would be the 140 to 170,000 price range. I think it's a good price range for your school teachers, for your police officers, for your folks getting out of Georgia Southern. Those are the target market that we're looking for. And two, I think it's also for those starter folks, but I also want you to consider the fact that it would also be nice for folks like me. My son, I hope, is moving out soon. So that I'll be empty nest, and I don't need a large house anymore. So at that point, I need somewhere to downsize. And I love the city of Statesboro, but right now, if I want something new, there's not anything. So something for empty nesters, but I'm looking in that's gonna be the price.
Okay, that is affordable. That's affordable. That's affordable.
That's the townhome?
Yes,
What's the single family home?
comparable. And those are the details that we hadn't worked out yet because the market is so bizarre right now. We're hoping in the next 6 months, those numbers will go down. But that's our target market.
I mean, I think that it is something that Statesboro needs, but like everyone else concerned, we just want to make sure that it's safe. That's my biggest concern. I mean, yeah, we need it, but we want to be safe at the same time.
I can assure you, Councilperson, that I'm not done in neighborhoods yet, but I did feel was safe. And I think with the calming measures, with the road not being a straightaway, the straightaway concerns me. But with the road meandering and having stop points, people are gonna cut through, yes, but it's gonna limit that because the time, nobody's gonna take time to stop. They'll go to another avenue. But with that, I think that with what we have designed, the engineer has done being creative, come up with a design that will be a safe neighborhood drive.
Kathy, what do you feel about the curve and the common measures?
Calming measure.
Common measures.
Calming measures. Well, it really goes back to the issue of, is it a collector, do you want a collector road which serves all the new development that's as well as the proposed development here? Or because if you don't build the collector, the argument is if you don't build the collector road, which will serve all the Kiwanis Road development as well as this development, you lose the opportunity forever in the future. And there really aren't very many connections at this point, with the exception of this property right here. And that's why when the annexation was voted in, they voted in for the 80-foot collector road. This represents a local road, which is a lot different. And so the local road will serve basically this development and perhaps a little other development on Kiwanis Road. But it's a really different type of road. It's a local road. Yes, it does have the traffic calming in it, but it's not part of the transportation system for the whole area. And the idea is that the collector road would serve traffic from the whole area. So that's the difference. It's an apple and orange issue.
Kathy, is a part of the problem is not just this particular property, but it's that whole area over there. I mean, the county is just allowing all kinds of development out there. They haven't expanded the roads. There's no improvements. And I mean, people are going to drive through this thing. So, and Joey, to your comments about this being the same size as Brampton or Brandon doesn't have private driveways backing up into the road. We don't have townhomes backing up into the road. So, I mean, that's going to be a concern. Of course, we need housing, and we certainly need it, but we've got to take into consideration the traffic that's coming over there. I mean, all you got to do is go out there on Burkhalter and right there at the top of the hill, right there by the Grapevine. I mean, every morning that's if you're coming towards Fair Road, you're sitting at that light for 15, 20 minutes. What's going to happen when we build this subdivision and the 3 other ones that are going out in the county out there? So, I mean, those are county roads. I don't know what we're going to do about it, but I mean, we don't own Kiwanis and we don't own Burkhalter at all. So it's just concerns. I don't know how we rectify it necessarily, but certainly something to be concerned about.
I had one more suggestion or comment, but I wanted to see if Mr. Riggs had anything to say. The rest of us have expressed. Did you?
How many stop signs do you have there, Joey?
Well, every intersection in this one, they're freeway intersections, so each one will have 3 stop signs, in each direction.
But I mean, how many?
So on that red
intersections?
line there, you'll have, you'll stop after you get through the roundabout, you'll stop at the first road, you'll go around the curve, you'll stop at that road, and if you turn to the right, you're going to Kiwanis, you'll stop at Kiwanis. I would like, Phil, you're right, and Kathy's right. The problem that we have as a community is what we're talking about is a local road versus a collector road. And if it's the will of the city, and the city wants a collector road, it's being placed on the back of the developers. Go build me an 80-foot road and $1.2 million and give it to the city, and then you can do your thing. And I get it, but it's hard to do that on this property. So that's really what we're voting on. We're voting on a local street or a collector. I mean, the zoning is kind of inconsequential. I think we all agree we want to go down on the zoning. But are we going to do? Are we going to require local streets per the ordinance? And these things meet the city's ordinance for local streets. Or are we requiring a collector? And if we're requiring a collector, as Steve said, we just need to leave it as R4 and leave it that way, because that's the only way. If the developer's got to pay for $1.2 million for a road with no help from the city, and then build a development on top of it and give all the infrastructure to the city and that, there's no way to make the money work. And you can't make it work. It's not even, you can't even borrow the money. I can't make it perform. I can't pencil wedge a performer to make that work. It just doesn't work. So that's really what we're voting on. Local road, collector.
So my concern is still that as the people charged with making decisions for the good of the whole city, that we've got to do it as safely as possible. And we know traffic is building up out there, and people, if there's a connection, if they can do it, they're going to cut through. And you're going to have people backing into driveways while they're cutting through. So what I would like to request, staff is well aware of this, and I believe there's another proposal possible.
Yeah, let's get a little bit more insight before we make any decision, Mr. Penny. I know we had a discussion earlier. You want to share some insight that you shared?
Mayor, members of the council, and to the public, I do want to just say one thing to Kiwi. Kiwi said she was old. Well, I've been doing this for 40 years, Kiwi, so I'm
You're a little older than me.
yeah,
but I don't know what.
This is it's a good project, and we do need the housing in Statesboro. There's no question about that. I do believe that the insight from the council back in 2013 was dealing with the transportation and all the development that would occur. And council, within its own right, could approve the project. And if you approve the project, staff, we will work with the developer to get the project built. However, there are some challenges for our staff professionally that has to do with the backing out into the public right of way. And so that's going to put our professionals in a serious conflict. We are thankful that you backed away from 1,200 units. We don't need 1,200 apartments. We do like the townhomes, and we like the single family homes because it is a hole in the city right now that we need to fill. However, we have the concern about the road meandering through the development. And for people that would live in the townhomes, even though you put the traffic calming measures and all those things in, you still would bring people from Fair Road through to go to Kiwanis and vice versa. And that would be a challenge. So one thought, if council is so inclined to approve the project, would be where the right of way ends right now is the cul-de-sac. And allow the developer to build private roads.
than the city. We would get the development, but they wouldn't have, I don't know that they even have to do 60-foot wide road. They would be able to develop to their standards. They build it to our standards. We have our standards. And I'm not saying it's not good, but we really are gonna put staff in a tough place approving those driveways that are gonna back into public roads. But we would end the street where it is now with the cul-de-sac. They would be able to access that cul-de-sac, but people that would coming down, or even if they decided they wanted to gate it, they could gate it, and the public wouldn't be able to traverse through those developments. It's not the best plan, but it takes us out of the issue of having a public road that we're not happy with. So we want the housing, we want the development, we want the townhome. We do need to do some work on our ordinances as it relates to townhomes. We need to do that. But we would just recommend the council or ask you to consider just cul-de-sacing the right of way as it is right now and allowing the developer to develop private roads in their development.
Okay. All right, so let us, I see we have, Rushing, Johnson, Keely, Maxwell. What is the thought process on privatizing the road? Is that an option?
From an engineer's perspective, privatizing the road is a standard option under a townhome. And how that's handled is under the HOA. So the roads, in most townhomes that we do, the facade, the roof, the front porch, the driveways, the grass, the roads, everything is owned by the HOA. And the reason for that is conformity. So for that to be private road, supposed to be private roads, me personally, I don't have a problem with it. You know, the attorneys may disagree with me, but that's the way we typically will do it. We have one right now that's under construction in Marietta, Georgia, that actually has 50-foot right of ways. And that was Marietta's requirement was to have 50-foot right of ways, 50-foot streets inside the town. And the 50-foot is.
But those are again not collector streets, correct?
Those are not collector streets, and that's the difference, and that's the terminology is that this is a local street. This is just like any other subdivision that we would design anywhere else in the city of Statesboro. The only problem that we have here is 67 at Burkhalter. That traffic light needs to be improved. The county's been trying to improve it. They turned it over to the DOT to improve it, and there's a power pole in there. And originally, one of the comments, one of our requirements, which we worked with staff to get that removed, was that we had to fix that too. And that intersection is probably one of the intersections in the city that needs to be fixed.
That's in the county.
In the county, I'm sorry. But our problem as a development is placing that burden on this development to take care of that traffic problem is a very overwhelming item. So turning it into a private street is a good option. Cul-de-sacing, Aspen Heights Drive, where it's at, is a good option. I have no problem with it personally.
And then we comment, it's not right.
Can you do that?
Well, can I ask Kathy a couple questions? First off, do we need a connector road through here?
Well,
I understand why we voted for it back in the day, but do we need a connector road?
talking to our public works people, they believe that this would greatly help our transportation system to interconnect from Fair Road to Kiwanis.
Right. Okay. But then the other question, or really a little bit of concern, is almost all of our existing apartment problems, and I've repeated this multiple times, are not apartments. They're townhomes. They're condos. And so how do we make sure that whatever HOA gets put together here, it doesn't end up like Park Place or some of these other places where they're condos, yet the HOAs are completely and utterly, I mean, Kane, am I wrong? I mean, I see you nodding over there. The HOAs are completely helpless to do anything. And the worst part is once those HOAs get a certain amount of renters in them, then they can't get bank loans to fix them back up. So it's this perpetual problem. So I don't know. That's my only concern with a townhome is that locally we have not been able to control our townhome developments. Yeah, go ahead.
You're right. Park Place is the worst, right?
Well, that's not the worst, but there's others.
The problem is the HOA and the covenants that are put into place and how they're written. You know, so
Sure.
the attorneys, get involved in that. We actually have a model set that we use in Atlanta. We do a lot of work for Pulte Homes. Del Webb, Syntex Homes, John Whelan. So we do anything from $1 million townhome to $150,000 townhome. But every one of them, the covenants and the HOA is done the same. It's about that thick. But when I read through it one day, I had to read through it. It's a boring read, but somebody puts flamingos on the front porch, the HOA tells them to get it off. But it has teeth in it. And you have to have teeth in the HOA and the covenants for code enforcement. Because code enforcement guy, poor code enforcement guy goes there and knocks on the door to tell them to fix it, and it ain't mine. So,
yeah, you don't own your siding.
Right. So the siding is all owned by the HOA. So you go after the HOA, and the HOA has to be a real good document. And we record those. You can look at the clerk of court in the city of Atlanta and pull numerous documents on those. The platting process is totally different. We do address and plats, and we sell those off individual units. But those covenants are very important. And you've hit on something that's been a pet peeve of mine here locally. That's why we're trying to push for a better development. And the better development process is having those ordinances in place. There's a long-term process to work those in. Those covenants are key. They are a key ingredient, and be glad to send those to the staff to look at those covenants and read through those that we've used at the quarters in Atlanta. That they're very good documents.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, there's homeowners associations all over the place that are well run and managed, but part of the problem is our whatever the legal system here hasn't been able to hold those HOAs accountable for their properties, and that the city suffers as a result. We suffer crime, we suffer lower property values, we suffer a lot of different things. Anyway, so as long as we can fix that, I'm very much in favor of townhomes. I think it's and walkable neighborhoods and things like that. We just need to make sure that long term we're making sure to put the right things in place.
I agree.
Just want to be clear about something you said in terms of the safety issue, in terms of this connector road versus the local road. I think what we're talking about is the difference between the road that travels between Super Center Walmart and the New El Sombrero and the Brandon Street connector, which is this connector road. So that's the difference between 60 feet and 80 feet. And as I understand it, this plan calls for a connector road to be built through there. So it kind of begs the question, if you build it, are you encouraging that kind of through traffic that you're trying to incentivize through this development? So those things seem to be at odds with each other. But ultimately, the developers, the community builders, want to work in whatever way to refine this plan. And if that can be included in the suggested amendment number 8, just so it doesn't get back to the 80-foot right-of-way, they're okay with that, coming up with whatever we need to come up with to make this work under the existing amendment change number 8.
Am I understanding correctly that you are okay with stopping it so people cannot come through your new development and get to Aspen to get to 67? So cul-de-sac and loop in?
That's one answer. That's one answer. And that's the answer that the city manager proposed. But there are a couple of others that we put together as well. I think if we can put our heads together again, we can do that under number 8. We were just concerned that number 8 gave so much leeway that it would ultimately get back to the 80-foot right-of-way requirement.
Ms. Sherry, let me respond to you.
Sure, please.
To be honest with you, I appreciate, the city manager trying to come up with a viable solution. But if we have to come to some compromise, it may work, but the challenge that I see, because I do this all the time, is that let's say that you put 239 houses, is what we're doing. And let's say a tree falls. There's only one egress out, one in, one out. And I don't think, for public safety standpoint, I don't think that's ideal. I also don't think it's ideal for a school bus to be able to maneuver itself through that neighborhood. So, yeah, is it a viable solution? Maybe. Is it, this is the best we got. And I don't think that coming up with a viable, Mr. Penny lives in a neighborhood that comes off commercial development. He coming off his road, and he comes right off a commercial development off of a state highway. So he has it in his neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know that this is the best, but I'm willing to work around, come up with the options. But I like the way it's designed with the amendments that we have presented.
The biggest complaint in that neighborhood is people driving through, and there's 3 stop signs. So you have to stop at 3 three-way stop signs. So, I mean, if it's a connector, if we pretend it's a connector, it'll be a connector. Whether we build it as a private road, a 60 foot and 80 foot, it'll end up being a connector.
Mr. Penny.
Good luck.
Okay. Al, get a picture of this.
Mr. Penny and I are really good friends, and I respect what he does, and he's a hard working man.
I asked her to come up here so I could hold her down.
Okay.
I know we're trying to resolve this and we want to find a resolution. And Keely's gonna kick me. I would simply say to the mayor and the council, if we could have and come on June 1st for the council, that would give us time for all of us.
She's about to get you. Mr. Penny, in your respect, I've been battling this for 8 months. I mean, I came on Kathy was so gracious, because it's the first time I've ever had any city planner come to me and say, what can I do to get you to build in Statesboro? And I did. She was so forward thinking that that's what we need in Statesboro's housing. And she came to me, kind of work these things out. But y'all, it's been 8 months. You know how long it takes me to do a development in the county? 3, start to finish. So my dollars are being banked up right here and being held up by city government right now. And I mean, to be honest with you, we have a great plan. We're bringing housing to Statesboro, affordable housing to Statesboro. And it works the way it is. We have the calming measures put into place. I'm ready for us to vote and move on. I appreciate it.
The only
That's
thing
not
I'm saying is the day is the 18th. And to work through what we just said, the council could act on this. They could act on it tonight and then work through it too. But June 1st is the council meeting, and they could take action on this item on June 1st at that morning meeting. And that's all I was asking. We just laid something out, and to have an opportunity to sit down as staff with your engineer and you, and just talk through what we just laid out. We're talking a period of 9 days. I'm sorry. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate the concern. I would like to go to a head vote tonight.
Ms. Sherry, you asked me what my opinion was. And what I'm thinking to myself, because I am someone, I'm on the road all the time, appraising stuff, whether it's Bradford Place, which is on Kiwanis Road. I'm thinking to myself from my office, which is my house, how am I going to get to Bradford Place? If that road has 2 stop signs, I would just assume, and as much as it meanders around and yield sign from the traffic circle, I've seen I just assume go to the top of the hill, Burkhalter, to the left, which I do often, and sit through the red light. It's not a lot of fun. Sometimes you sit through 2 red lights, but I'm used to it. It's what's coming. I would just assume that not be a throughway. However, I do see that you have to, it has to go all the way from Fair Road to Kiwanis, for safety purposes, for fire engines, police, should go down. I would probably drive through this once, just to see what the houses look like, and then I would be going around it. And that's someone who uses this all the time. I'm good with this as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm not. I love the houses, I love the concept, I would love for it to happen in District 5 where I live. But I can't in good conscience support the idea of my friends or family buying a house and being on a street that they've got to back out into. But I plan ahead, I'm like you, John, I think ahead, and I don't go to places where I gotta make a left turn and hit the traffic. But lots of people don't plan ahead. You sit behind them and when it's awkward to get through. So people are going to cut through if we make it where they can. We're gonna have cut through traffic. And I hear all the efforts to slow them down, but you're still gonna have people having to back out into a street where there's traffic coming through. So, sure, I mean, we've talked about it. You know where I am. I would love to see it happen, but I can't in good conscience. It just doesn't feel safe to have people backing out into the traffic. I would love for you to work with the staff again and see if there's some compromise, but I just can't report like it is.
You know,
Thank you.
I've listened to this. And when this was built out, the zoning for it was for a development with up to 1,200 apartments. This development has 239 units. So I think that we've got to really kind of get a good understanding. There's a huge difference between 1,200 unit traffic and 239 townhomes and single family homes being in this area. So when this was laid out, it was laid out with max capacity in mind. That capacity has been reduced by 80%. 80%. That's what it's been reduced by. And at the end of the day, if there's a road that's connecting one road to another, there's chances, it's more than likely people are going to use it to go through. But it's not going to be at the same capacity of 1,200 units. And I think we're overthinking this a little. And I've listened to everybody. Everybody is making great points, but I think what is missing is that at the time that this was approved, it was with the thought of a different zoning code with the potential of 1,200 units going in. The developers have come in, they've reduced 1,200 units down to 239. That's a reduction of nearly 80%. So that's an 80% reduction in traffic that could possibly go in through there. And so I think that's something that we need to consider. I applaud the staff for everything that they've done. I applaud the developer. But in this case, I believe that the planning commission, they got it right. I think they got it right in this one. And not only that, when we're talking about traffic, we gotta also understand that there is a need for housing. And what brings me more comfort is that I've seen the product that Denise Smith family has put together in this community. I live down the street from one of these products, and it is a very nice development. I have not seen them create anything that was not a nice development. And so on this particular project, I don't have a vote, but what I do believe, I believe the planning commission got it right. I believe in 2013, when this was originally, when the zoning ordinances were put in place in regards to this, it was at a max capacity of 1,200. We reduced it by 80%. And here we have a quality developer that's locally owned, that's looking to put local people to work and provide housing opportunities for individuals that we're trying to get them to choose Statesboro as their home. And I can understand if we had 2, 3, 4 other developments like this in the hopper, but we don't. And so for me, from the onset, when I assessed everything, I believe that this was a great opportunity for us. But I think Marcus said something that was very essential. We got to use this as a learning moment to address ordinances that we have to correct so that it's easier for developers to be able to build the kind of homes inside of our city that we need. So that's my take on it. And to be honest with you, many of the other communities are building products like this. And this is where young people, those Gen Zs, that future tax base, they are choosing to move to those areas. And if we are planning to be a city that's competing 10, 20, 30 years from now for these individuals, we have to start that today. So with that being said, I'm open to whatever motion the council would like to put forward, or what direction we would go. But I listened to everyone, and I wanted to be clear that to be public about where I stand with this particular project. Is there any further discussion by council?
Yeah, Kathy, so we got that red line that runs through, which is basically our connector road there. Would it be possible to have our variances apply differently to the different roads? In other words, they want to build those porches close in, and that makes sense in that section kind of up in the left where there's not as much traffic. But when you get that main traffic, parking in close and side street parking and things like that, it's going to be a connector. We have to face that reality. We can't just say, oh, a couple of people are going to drive through there. A lot of people are going to drive through there. So we have to face that reality. But at the same time, there's a big section of it that is not part of the connector. Can we separate the two? And would that be something that maybe would be a decent compromise, Keely, where I don't know if we do a little bit less density on that road or a little further setbacks just on that one particular road, but that might be a compromise that works for both Sherry's concern, which is the folks that are living on that road, the safety, not to mention people cutting through. Yet at the same time, our developers, they need the density, they need the extra space. I get all that. So is that a possible compromise for you guys?
We'd have to modify the site plan because we're zoning to the site plan. So we would have to, if you wanted to move.
Site plan has to be approved later anyway, doesn't it?
Well, this is what this concept is what with the PUD, you're actually zoning to this.
Yes, but
so
is this in our packet?
Yes.
That picture? I didn't see it in my packet.
It should be.
It should not. That's what I'm suggesting, yeah. So we've just seen this today.
I see.
I didn't even see it in the packet. So, anyway, I don't know, can I, Keely or Francis?
We have to the applicant.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what they had to say about that.
So we mentioned earlier, amendment number 8, and that is, so that there'll be additional approval through the city for alignment with the local streets. And I think that's your ultimate concern. And if that's what you mean when you say that, then we think we can work out these other issues with amendment number 8.
I'm sorry, just say that one more
I
time.
have never been told that I could not be heard. That's a
I like the rest of them are getting old too, so I haven't always worn these.
Me and you both, absolutely. So amendment number 8,
right,
requires some further approval from the city.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
For local alignment with the streets, and we think a lot of these suggestions can be contained there. Our reservation was because that the language was so broad in that amendment that we thought it would ultimately get us back to we want to require the 80-foot right of way. So long as we're talking about
especially through the whole thing,
right,
which would be a very big problem.
So that would make this work a nullity. So ultimately, if number 8 is refined to mean additional changes as proposed by the city manager or other ideas, like you talked about, some variances between what is allowed in some places versus others, then the developer can work with it. The community developer wants to work within number 8 to get that done.
As long as number 8 is considered a local road, we will work with that.
Right, we just don't want it to be a sort of a backdoor to get us back to what you need is an 80-foot connector road.
No, that's not my intention, but my intention is to realize that red indicated road is different than the rest of them. And so, yeah, I mean, way up in the upper, sorry, I'm just using the directions. I don't know what the actual cardinal directions, but in the upper left there, clearly you don't need an 80-foot road. Clearly you can have back out into the street. I mean, there's nowhere to go through there. You're not going to have traffic, but this other section might need that. So if we're okay with some flexibility, I think, wouldn't that satisfy you, Sharon? Not 100% sure, you'd have to see it.
Yeah.
So when Steve mentioned that we were asking for you to adopt the planning commission's recommendations with the exception of one, that exception was number 8. We were interpreting it as broad as possible. We thought that would give a backdoor to put more onerous requirements. But if we're talking about a set of changes that will get us to, good, fair compromise between the regulations and the developer's needs, we're absolutely fine with that.
We are fine. We will work with the developer council approval to get the best product.
So Kathy, what would your recommendation be then for that idea? As far as the language, I'm not a.
Yeah, I think as Mr. Penny said, that we will work with the developer then, based on your considerations about your concerns about those units on that strip of road in terms of the safety issues.
So what I'm hearing from what Mr. Johnson said is, and I think the concern from the staff is when you approve the zoning and you approve this plan, that is the problem. That's the concern. But what I heard Mr. Johnson say is that they are willing to work with staff to work through the design and the layout of the road to address the concerns that we might have, as long as we don't come back and say we still want an 80-foot road. Right. We're not going to say that because that's not what you're getting ready to approve.
Right.
In all due respect to Mr. Johnson and the city manager, we have met with city staff. We've had private meetings to try to come up with some sort of viable options. Unfortunately, the last time that we had a meeting, it didn't get anywhere. It was, I'm sorry, this is the only thing you can do, period. So given that, I still think I'd like to proceed the way it's drawn with a local road for the vote for this evening.
Okay. So maybe one solution might be in amendment number 8, that we would substitute the proposed local street alignment to local road so that it's clear that we're talking about a local road as opposed to a connector road. And any other changes would be not minor, but they would be included in what we've discussed tonight. If that's our understanding, that's fine. We were just interpreting amendment number 8 as it's very broad and giving authority to put more onerous requirements on the developer. But I think we have an understanding now that we're talking about local road as opposed to a connector road.
Okay, so.
And if as long as I keep 239 units, as long as I keep my 239 units, let's put that in there too.
All right, and so the request is.
I'm sorry, Penny, I appreciate their efforts.
So the request is to approve this per the planning commission's recommendations to with an adjustment to amendment number 8 to read local roads instead of local streets, and to add in language up to 239 units.
We'll make sure the minimum that we can maintain 239 units in the project.
Okay.
To make it financially feasible.
Okay, all right, so council, that's the discussion. I'm good with that. Okay.
But I heard Ms. Fennell saying, vote on it like this. If we can only negotiate minor things, Mr. Johnson was saying, but I'm hearing Keeley say, take it or leave it.
I think we're representing the same perspective. She's got some deliverables from the developer standpoint, a minimum of 239 units that she wants to put in this space. What we're saying is, from taking everything into consideration, including your very important safety concerns,
that we make the adjustments where we need to, but we do so on the basis that we're talking about a local road as opposed to a connector road, a 60-foot or less, as opposed to an 80-foot. And I think that was the big issue, and all other things about adjusting design can be worked out.
Okay. And I am understanding it to understand that it is for, to make safety adjustments as needed.
Again, it's not about the road, it's about the.
Councilman, I got a question on the floor. So am I understanding that it is to be able to make adjustments for safety as needed?
Correct.
Okay. Councilman Boyd.
Okay, so well, I mean, all due respect, this drawing was not in our agenda packet.
No, it was not. That's not the packet that was sent to me.
I mean, we can give proper notice on this. I've never seen this before today. No.
Was this not emailed to council?
No, this is not in the packet. Oh, I mean, it's all due respect, but Keely, we haven't seen this before today. It was not in our packet. I didn't see this Thursday or Friday, that's today. So, I mean, we haven't had any conversation about it. We haven't had any talk. I realize you've been working on it for 8 months or 12 months, but this is literally the first time I've seen it. Make a motion.
If I may, one more time. Just to emphasize what Keely said is this, we have been working on this, we have worked with the staff over and over. We've been to the planning commission twice. This is a plan that has culminated in all of these efforts. We believe it does take into account safety, the calming traffic effects. We think this is the best plan, and this is why we are tendering this, and we ask for your support.
Keely, can I ask you a question? So I know, I get it, that you want this to be done how it is, but I want to ask you if you would take that in consideration, because like Phil said, everybody didn't see this. So you worked with staff, but you didn't work really with the whole council as one. So if we have suggestions, like Sherry had a suggestion, she didn't even get to say what it was. I don't even know what it is. And you have suggestions, so maybe if we come with the suggestions that the council has, and then with staff has already said whatever we agree on, they're going to work with. So could you take that and let us give the suggestion, or see, even what Phil said made a lot of sense, and you agree with it, but I know you're frustrated, so you want it to get done now. But if we can just take those suggestions, staff is going to do what we recommend. So, because if we have to vote on it now, a lot of people aren't comfortable with it. So I don't think it's a good thing to do it right now. I think giving it to June 1st, which is our next meeting, it may be a little bit better. That's just my suggestion. And I do get it. I'm a woman. I know when we want things done, we want it done now. And I'm tired of like this. So I get it. So that's why I just want to say, like, if we can just give the suggestion, like Phil said, and then Sherry has hers, and then you guys have yours, and then staff is going to do whatever we vote on, and we want it. We just want it to be safe, and I know that you're saying that you're not going to, but we can't control who's going to come and go and whatever. So I just think if you just take a second and think about it, because if we do it now, I don't know. But I think if we have time to come to like a happy medium, then I think it can work out. Because everybody is saying that we want it. Nobody is like, no, we don't want you. And we don't, so I don't know. Just think about it.
All right. Any further discussion by council?
So can we ask again if we can do what Mr. Penny suggested and vote on it June 1? Because I'm not clear. Right now, all I can hear is there's still a cut through with people backing out into it. I can't support that, but I want you to build it. So do you want to defer till June 1? Can we go back to that, or?
Like, could we table it? How would that work? Like, table it for now and then
It'll be the first thing on the next agenda.
it'll be the first thing on the next agenda and then everybody will really.
I think really though, if we're gonna table it, is there a point to tabling it? Is this gonna change when we come back?
Well,
And if it's not, then we'll just vote on it as it is.
on.
But that's up to the developers.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So what are we waiting on now? Because
I don't know.
seem like we gonna be
We're waiting for T.
When we wait.
Our people are talking to their people.
Well, we can clearly see, that there's a desire for this project to be done.
Yeah, we need this
And
project.
so really what we're doing is a lot in our point of privilege. And we need to, so we can all be on the same page, because at the end of the day, I think that everybody wants to be successful. Go ahead.
So I've been discussing with the city manager a way that we could give the city maximum flexibility, while giving the developers, the community developers we represent, kind of comfort that we're not gonna be back here again fighting over the same issue. And what we thought about doing was simply just striking amendment recommendation number 8. The code still exists, still has to be complied with, but that gives the city and the community developer the space they need and the certainty they need to be able to move forward. So this is still ripe for action and still has space to address some of the safety concerns, including some of the variances in terms of how we align this. And we can get this done tonight, if it's your pleasure. We're okay with that as a change.
Okay. Council.
I'm sorry, what's number 8?
Okay.
Sorry.
So we have number 8 read for council pleasure.
I'll be happy to read it if you'd like. Number 8 says, all subdivision regulations as
If
per.
we will, please, everyone, we need quiet. Go ahead.
Thank you. Number 8, all subdivision regulations as per Article 4, Section 4.3, subsection 13, must be adhered to, including prior approval by the city engineer of the proposed local street alignment. So it's of the proposed local street alignment, approval by city engineer. That's the issue.
Alright, and so what does staff take on the removal of amendment 8?
So Mayor, if you remove number 8, it does not remove the right for the city to approve the plan.
Okay.
And that's what Mr. Johnson and I were saying. We would still have to work together to address those safety concerns and the development, to make sure we get the development and we address those safety issues that are important to us.
Okay. So by striking amendment 8, we are able to address the safety concerns that not only staff has, but council has as well. And we're able to move this project forward. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's what we're saying, man.
Okay. All right. So we've gotten to a spot. All right. So at this point, is there a motion to approve this plan per the Planning Commission's recommendation with the elimination of amendment 8? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. All right. Thank you. Now, we ain't in COVID no more. I need you to speak up. So with that being said, we're gonna move on to. Yeah, she voted. I voted yes. It's 4-1, correct?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so with that being said, good Lord. Ooh. Y'all want me out. Somebody want to give me some Gatorade. Good Lord. So after an hour and a half, we are now on agenda item number 10. Which is a public hearing consideration of a motion to approve the application RZ 21-04-01. Southern Coastal Investment Properties LLC requesting zoning map amendment from the R20 zoning district to the R4 high density zoning district in order to construct 18 single-story homes at 10 Briarwood Court. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Kathy, you give us some insight.
Thank you, sir. The subject site consists of one parcel containing 3.25 acres. Currently, the parcel contains one single-family dwelling. The applicant seeks to demolish the home and construct 18 single-story residential townhomes on a portion of this parcel, totaling 2.76 acres of property. No development is contemplated at this time for the rest of the property. According to the FEMA maps, the site contains significant wetlands and would require delineation and approval from the Army Corps of Engineers to develop. The Statesboro Comprehensive Master Plan shows this site as a part of the conservation area, which generally are considered environmentally sensitive areas. So there is the site, and you can see it's divided in two because there's an easement that goes basically bisects the site. The proposed development is in the northern segment of this divided site. There is no development proposed for the southern segment. The future land use map shows this, and if you look at the I guess it's a blue-green. If you look at that, that's a proposed conservation area.
Mm-hmm.
The zoning shows this as the current zoning is R20, which allows for half-acre lots. The left-hand photo shows subject property with the vacant house through the trees. The photo to the right shows property to the south. Photo to the left shows the western property to the west. And the photo to the right shows the property to the north, which is the sewer treatment plant. Here is the site layout. You can see, again, you can see the extension of Briarwood Road that bisects the parcel and dead ends at Veterans Parkway. And it's really an easement at this point. And then, so all the development is on the northern part of this parcel. Staff recommends denial of RZ 20-0401 due to the significant wetlands on the site, as well as the inconsistency with the comprehensive plan. If this petition is approved by the Marion City Council, it should be subject to the applicant's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. 1, approval of the zoning map amendment does not grant the right to develop on the site without approval. All additional construction must be approved by the city. 2, a green space plan must be submitted to preserve as much of the available wetlands in the area. It should show the retention of stormwater to prevent issues related to the surrounding flood zone. At the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission on May 4th, 2021, the Commission voted to approve the zoning map amendment with staff conditions by a vote of 3-0. Thank you, sir. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Kathy. Is there anyone here to speak for the request?
Well, speaking of the wetlands are delineated. We had those delineated by a wetlands consultant out of Savannah, and they're displayed on the map. As you can see, we're not proposing to impact any wetlands. There is a floodplain line that runs across that hammerhead at the back of the property. That is nothing but that hammerhead is nothing but a turnaround for fire apparatuses if there were a fire. So I think we've actually addressed the staff's comments in this plan. Stormwater detention basin is located there. There's the kidney down the bottom and labeled out. The developer is here with me tonight, and the property owner is John Lavender. What he's proposing to build here is very similar to what Ray Henley's been building. A brick facility, and these will be rental. Now, the area in the land use plan shows it as R20 and shows it as conservation. And I understand when we do the land use plan, we have to draw a line somewhere, and then there's wetlands behind it, and wastewater treatment plant behind on the northern side of it. But going back to the zoning map that's a part of the packet, there's a large area of R4 zoning to the northwest of the property. And you can see that's in the pink area, as well as to the south, which is the property we just talked about. Across the street from it is a doctor's office. We have a church up on the corner, and there's a care home just to the back of it. And this does have a single-family residence on it currently. It's an older home that is being proposed to be demolished and then replaced with a newer Prado. Now, the road that goes through, or the easement that goes through, actually is the old road right of way for Briarwood. Briarwood, before the bypass, used to cross over at Locos. And when the bypass went through, that was eradicated. And through that particular easement or right of way section there, the city's wastewater treatment plant has their outfall line that goes through. And that's why we don't propose to do anything in that area. Because that takes the treated wastewater to Bird's Pond. So we're not looking to do anything there. Now, the developer, this property does not have sewer. Surprisingly, with a sewer plant behind it, we don't have sewer. So he has to put in a grinder pump lift station to pick up the waste and move it up to the intersection of 67 and Briarwood to put it into the city manhole. The doctor's office across the road has a similar system right now that's functioning. I think that's all I've got.
Thank you. Is there anyone to speak for the request? All right, seeing that there's none, is there someone to speak against the request? All right, seeing there's none, is there a motion to close the hearing? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any council discussion?
Yes, please. Mr. Maxwell, would you clarify for me? I'm concerned about the two different parcels, the green, well, it's all green, you don't cut down trees, but the section, the smaller section, that's all part of the same tax parcel. If you go back to the drawing meeting, that's the way I want here. So you can see there's two sections. The one closest to the bypass. There's nothing planned on that right now. Did I understand you to say that there's something on it that'll keep it from being developed in the future?
No, ma'am. There's, in the old road right of way, there's a 48-inch, I believe it's 48-inch concrete pipe that runs through from the wastewater treatment plant. But the property along the bypass that is not part of this request is, again, we don't have any plans to develop it at this point. We would come back to you in the future for that. I think the way it's presented, because it is a tax parcel, it's divided by, I don't know who owns the land, if the city owns the land. I think it's presented as both properties, asking it to both be R4. We're really requesting for the top portion, which in a lot of cases we do split zonings where we have this side of the property is R4, this side is commercial. And that's all we're really asking for is that northern section to build the duplexes or triplexes.
So this is in District 5, so I'm paying particular attention. I always want to preserve trees, and I don't want to impinge on property owner being able to develop and make money and provide more housing. My concern is if we approve the zoning variance, it applies to both properties. So then the owner can do whatever they want to that's allowed under the R4 that we're changing it to. You wouldn't have to come back.
Under R4, but if we were going to do anything, Mr. Laverick can answer that question. I would propose that it be office, like the doctor's office, or commercial, or something of that nature on the bypass. Because, well, it's visual from the bypass, but you can't get to it from the bypass. You have to come back. Right. So we don't, at this point, we don't know what that's going to be, so we would have to come back to you for that. But you're correct, as presented. It was not our intent, just to put R4 on both sides. Our intent is just that northern portion, which we can give you a legal description on that portion if that's customary for zoning requests. To differentiate that as R4 and this remains as R20.
Okay. So what I found out when I noticed that it was two pieces today, what I found out from staff is that there's a process to separate it, and you have to fill out a form, and Kathy has to approve it. But I'm interested in trying to just approve one. I don't want to approve those portions tonight. So is there any way around that, Jason?
Can't leave it. I'm fine with your recommendation.
I mean, so the tax assessor has, as Joey says, has both of those parcels which are dissected by the roadway. When we communicated earlier, I wasn't looking at that map, so I wasn't aware of the right of way going through there, splitting the parcels. But if it's from a procedural standpoint, if the city attorney's fine with that, I don't think staff would have a problem with that.
You'd be setting a precedent to do that though.
The only problem with that is, like Joey mentioned, I've got to pay to put in the sewer, I've got to pay to do this development. I can't do that and not have the other property available to do development on. I have to do it as a whole, I just want to do it in phase. If I can also speak on you mentioned about the trees, and I can't remember, you said it was 3.7 acres or something total, I don't know the exact number, but if you look at the wetland slide, that one, you can see that probably a third of the property is going to be left in completely with trees. So it's a lot more than what you'd have to normally know. It's very simple. It's very similar to what Ray Henley has done on other old property, old houses.
So am I understanding correctly that your plan would be eventually to put something like that in the other smaller portion that's left, that fronts on the bypass, or you just wanted the flexibility to do that or come back with something different?
It'd be flexibility to either do that or, like Joey mentioned, to get it zoned for office. But again, Joey ran some numbers on running the sewer and the infrastructure of this project is like $85,000 to $90,000. And kind of like the whole hour and a half discussion we had before, if you're going to pay for that infrastructure, you have to have development potential. So I want to know that I had the ability to develop that, at least to the extent of what I'm doing with the other.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any further discussion by council? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
I motion to approve,
Is there a second?
Unless you want me to elect.
Yeah. A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 11, public hearing consideration of motion to approve application RZ 21-04-02. Jessica Herman, requests a zoning map amendment from the R15 single family, residential zoning district to the office zoning district in order to open a real estate office on the site located at 110 South Chippewa Avenue. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you, sir. Historically, the site has served as the Young Life Youth Center, but it's currently vacant. The subject site is surrounded with office uses to the north and south, with a psychologist's office operating in the adjacent R15 lot under a special exception. This is one of the many residential conversions in the area. R15 uses are still predominant to the east of the subject site on Donaldson Street, however. The site is operated under a conditional use variance, which was granted as a result of a rezoning request in 2001. So you see the subject site on South Zetterauer. And the future land use plan calls for this area to be a neighborhood center. You can see the site, it's in the R15, but it's right up against the office zone. The photo on the top left shows the subject site, and the one on the bottom shows the property to the west. The one on the top left shows the property to the north, and then the bottom right shows the property to the south. Staff recommends approval of RZ 21-0402. If this petition is approved by the Marion City Council, it should be subject to the applicant's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. 1, approval of the zoning map amendment does not grant the right to develop on the site without approvals. All construction must be approved by the city. At the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission on May 4th, 2021, the commission voted to approve the zoning map amendment with staff conditions by a 3-0 vote. Thank you, sir. That's my presentation.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone here to speak for the request?
Good evening. My name is Jessica Herman. I'm the owner and broker of Great Georgia Realty, which is the site that I am proposing. I don't necessarily need to add anything to what she did. I simply wanted to introduce myself in case you had any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone here to speak against the request? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll open it up for council discussion. Any discussion by council? All right, seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to agenda item 12, which has been stricken from the agenda as the applicant has withdrawn. We'll move down to agenda item 13, which is a public hearing consideration of motion to approve 13A and 13B. 13A reads as follows. Application AN 21-04-04. Adams Property Group requests annexation by the 100% method of 8.72 acres of vacant land for the purpose of constructing a self-storage mini warehouse facility on Veterans Memorial Parkway. 13B reads as follows. Application RZ 21-04-05. Adams Property Group LLC requests a zoning map amendment from the R40 single family residential zoning district to the CR commercial retail zoning district to allow for the construction of a self-storage mini warehouse facility on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Is there a motion to open the public hearings for 13A and B? So is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Kathy, if you give us some insight.
Yes, sir. The subject site is currently vacant with commercial uses to the east and north. The site is directly adjacent to the developing site that currently contains the new Chrysler Jeep Dodge dealership. There are no wetlands on the site, and there is no inconsistency with the development pattern of the comprehensive plan, and it is adjacent to the emerging business designation. So you can see the location of the site, and it's just outside of the city boundary. The future land use map shows it in the light is in the county, but it is up against the blue, which is the emerging business district. And in the zoning map, it currently has an HC, highway commercial zoning from the county, and it's proposing to come into the city with a commercial retail zone. The top left shows the subject property. The bottom right shows the property to the north. The top left shows the property to the northwest, and the bottom right shows the property to the west. And this is the site plan. It's a mini self-storage. And staff recommends approval of AN 21-0404 and RZ 21-0405. If this petition is approved by the mayor and city council, it should be subject to the applicant's agreement to the following enumerated condition. 1, approval of this annexation and zoning map amendment does not grant site and/or building plan approval as submitted. Projects will be required to meet all city ordinances and applicable building codes. At the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission on May 4th, 2021, the commission voted to approve the annexation and zoning map amendment with staff conditions on a 3-0 vote. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kate. All right, is there anyone here to speak for the request?
Good evening, Evan Bennett with Missy Gay Bell. Been quite a night to come before you guys with this today.
We have a little action.
Just want to speak quickly about this. This use is a very good use for a long skinny parcel like this. It's it fits great. I live out in this direction. I'm excited to see what's going on this side of town. It's good seeing these new dealerships and some retail out there. I think growth is always good. I've got some of the folks from Adams Property Group with us today. We've been working together for a pretty good little while now, trying to get everything arranged and make sure this development is going to go through, hopefully. We've worked with DOT to ensure they're going to approve a right-in, right-out access. We've worked with Georgia Power to establish what can go on under their power easement, which crosses our property. And we've worked a good bit with Justin at the planning department, and we've worked with Robert Stevens on our planting plan, and he seems to be satisfied. We're not requesting any variances. Total number of units is 478 at this point. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got.
Okay, thank you. You're available for council discussion. All right, anyone here to speak against the request? All right, seeing that it is not, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, we're opening it up for council discussion. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move now to agenda item 14, consideration of a motion to approve resolution 2021-019, a resolution amending the job position classification and compensation plan to reclassify one code compliance officer to two senior code compliance officer. Mr. Bennett.
Mayor, members of the council, we have two code enforcement officers. Both of them are at the same level. And so we need to create a position that would be responsible and would supervise, one would supervise the other. And so therefore tonight we're asking you to reclassify one of the positions. Then what we will do is we will advertise the position for internal competition. And then Ms. Steele will be able to make a determination who should be the supervisor of there. Both of the young men are doing an outstanding job, and we're blessed to have them. So we would recommend to you that you reclassify one of the positions to be a senior code enforcement officer.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. All right, any discussion by council? Seeing that there is none, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll move now to agenda item 15, consideration of a motion to approve change orders number 7, 8, 10, 11, 13, 14, and 15 with John Lavender Associates Incorporated in the not to exceed amount of $107,136 for the Loretta Park and Grady Street Park Improvements Project. The authorized mayor to execute contract documents amendments. Mr. Bennett.
Make a arm wrestle for it.
Mayor, members of the council, obviously the park projects are moving along, and as we are moving along, we recommend to you this change order of $107,136. Just simply say to you, of the $4.5 million that we borrowed to do both of these parks, we are the balance is quickly declining. We're now right about $300,000 left. We have another change order that's probably going to come to you, hopefully at the next meeting for video security. And then we just need to be careful because with it being a rehab project, we're always going to run into things. We ran into some things out at Grady Street, like subsurface stuff. And so we just want to make sure we can get through, and we can get through and not exceed $4.5 million. But we do recommend to you this change order, but we know we got another one coming.
Okay. All right. Any discussion by council? All right, seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to agenda item 16, which considers a motion to purchase a new mini skid tier with attachment for the Public Works and Engineering Department in the amount of $39,431 from Vernon Southeast using Sourcewell, member, number 33094, contract number 062117-VRM. Mr. Kenny.
I recommend you.
Okay. Any discussion about that?
Can I drive it?
I
don't need a CEO.
On the side of a project.
A motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. We move down to agenda item 17, which is consideration of a motion to approve a joint resolution with Bullock County to authorize payment of proceeds from 2019 SPOS to the city of Statesboro in the amount of $480,331.73.
I recommend it to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Penn. Any discussion by council? Seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we move down to agenda item 18, consideration of a motion to approve a memorandum of agreement with, Georgia Department of Transportation for roadway and pedestrian crosswalk walk maintenance on Route 73, South Main Street, between Tillman Road and State Route 67, which is Fair Road, for the Blue Mile Street Day project. Mr. Penn.
Mayor, member of the council, we are asking DOT to allow us to do some enhancements on the crosswalk and the installation of some poles that normally don't meet their standards. And they are willing to do that as long as we agree to maintain those things. And so we recommend approval by you for us to submit this to DOT so that we can, there's some enhancements to that pedestrian area as we make improvements down the Blue Mile. So we recommend you approve this tonight.
Okay. All right, any discussion by council? Seeing that there's none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to agenda item 13, other business from city council. Any other business from city council?
Well.
I just want to make a statement. The mayor started off by saying that he's not wearing his mask. CDC says you don't need to if you've been fully vaccinated, and I agree, and that's why I'm not wearing mine. But I want to echo what he said about encouraging folks who are listening at home. All of you here already know it. To please get your vaccine if you haven't already. And for those folks who, for whatever reason, are not vaccinated or they're going home to fragile house members, other people they love, wear your mask. Keep protecting yourself and other people.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other business from council? Seeing that there is none, we move down to number 20, city manager comments.
Mayor, members of the council, the only thing I want to just mention to you, just give you a quick update on the Youth Connect program. That program is going to roll out on June the 7th with 20 young people working for the city. We received 79 applications. We had to go through the applications and pare them down to make sure we got all the folks that lived inside the city limits. And then, so we got down to about 42. We've actually now have 30-some people. We'll start interviews tomorrow. And so we'll get 20 young people that will work with us and go through those courses that they're going to be taking for that 5-week period. We just want to let you know. And we'll share the curriculum with you a little bit later as well.
You're going to invite them to come meet us.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to say this, Ms. Barr. They will be in class at 9 o'clock at one of our meetings, but also our plan is to invite y'all to come and meet them as well in their setting. But, we'll be glad to have them come to a council meeting.
That's exciting. Thank you. We'll move down to agenda item 21, public comments. On the agenda, we have Ms. Andy Bellinger to address conflicts on the west side. Ms. Bellinger.
Thank you for being so patient, Ms.
I don't really have to introduce myself, but I think everybody should know. But anyway, there's a lot of confliction going on in that neighborhood. And if some of y'all would tell me where I could go get myself certified to run for public office, I'll do that. But I don't know where you can take a class to do it. But in that neighborhood, it's always some confliction concerning what
can be done down there and what cannot be done down there, but I never hear it come before the city council. Okay, I'm gonna give you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, about 3 or 4 years ago, I had some problems with my furniture, and I went through the city to put new furniture and all in the house. Okay, it's pulled gas and it pulled electricity. So when I was up here one day and Ms. Penny said there was money that would help you with your energy bill. So I said, oh, well, I'll apply. So I went and applied for it and said that I could get $400. So I said, okay, that's fine. So I kept calling the city and they said, well, you got 2 more times to pay and then you can get your fund. So I paid them 2 times. Third time I went to the city to pay, to make sure it was being paid. So I gets up there and she said, well, then you're not gonna get for $6. I said, why that? She said, they only pay the energy bill. I said, well, I told them over there that I pull electricity and gas. That's my energy. So when I gets over there, I asked him to let me talk to the Smith guy over there. So he said, told the girl to come back to me, he couldn't talk to her. And so I was telling her, he said this, I said, don't tell me what he said, let him tell me what. Because he's something to say that he can tell me that. I want to hear it directly from him. Mm-hmm. So one girl come running out that side and she was raising sand. Then he come out that side and he called the police on him. So I cause disturbance everywhere I go. And I always went over there to do what the city told me to do, find out why it was like that. Now did y'all approve of that one? Now that's money coming from Conservative Services, Acts or whatever, Acts Pack or whatever you want to call it. But it's just the fact that I know a lot of people living with me and stuff, and it's getting it. I didn't really need it. Like I told them, I don't really need it that much. But with $6 a month, would have to be 5 years to do $400. And I asked them, what about next year if I want to apply? You can apply again next year. I already got $6 for 5 years. Look, don't insult me by thinking I need $6. I know I clean houses, but I make good. I don't need to beg nor borrow. What I do, I can pick up pennies out of a house that I clean after my move out and pick up $25 in one day. So it was an insult to me to tell me that for 5 years I'm gonna get $6. I mean, was that something that came from here? Because I know it came from something was said in the city councilman that I didn't have enough education to do this and I didn't have enough education to do that. I got enough education to know if you paint some of them houses down on Johnson Street, make them people clean up around them and paint them. I got knowledge enough to know you won't have to tear them down and be a decent place for people to live. Some of them living in, some of them worse than that. But no, you want to tear them down. But those are what you call affordable living. $170,000 house is not one dumb people down in that area can afford. Mm-hmm. And y'all say we got this, say we got that, but you never listens to nothing I have to say about it. I sit down in that neighborhood a lot of times and I look at the people. Those people going to the store back and forth carrying bags, no cars. Some people, old people, just can't go. Sometimes if I'm sitting on the porch, they'll sit on the steps and talk for a few minutes. I know they do it because they cannot go any further till they get some rest. They'll sit there and they'll talk for a few minutes and they'll go on. Only thing that I asked them to have a little park or something put down there, and so on the way back, they can sit down and have a little. But no, I can't say nothing about what needs to go on down there. Say it's coming from the city councilman. The city councilman said, I ain't seen nobody come up here before the city councilman and bring nothing to y'all when nobody up here can say nothing. Now, when I hear it from this city councilman up here, what I can't do down there on Johnson Street, I will question it. But until I do whatever And as long as I'm within the law, I'll do it. If I want to get somebody to put a little park so that people can sit there, if I want somebody to put a little table behind their house and feed their family, I'll do that. Because there's nothing down in there for those people to do. They go back and forth to the store, back and forth to the store, back and forth to the store all day long. No place to sit down, no place to say nothing. And to tell me, as hard as I work, I got to beg y'all for $6 a month for 5 years? No way, Jose, will I do it. And I don't intend to be insulted like that again. Now, you talk to Mr. Smith over there, just like I told him. You don't know me well enough to stand in my face and tell me what somebody said about me and call the police on me. I ain't did nothing but question. And the police asked me, said, what did she do? She just wanted to know about the program you had set up over here. I think the program should have been looked into by y'all before he ever called himself set it up. And then y'all could have seen the flaw. But no, he didn't. He did just like he did a few years ago. I had to get him a few years ago because he said the poverty line was $1,000 in Statesboro. He don't get money from state. He wouldn't get money from Statesboro then. He only got state money, and state poverty line is $1,200 a month. Mm-hmm. What did he do with all that money that he took from the people all the years? Somebody need to look into the fact, and he gonna stand up there and tell me the poverty line is that, poverty line is that. There's 5 or 6 people that's live in the same house to pay the rent. Person drawing $400, most of them uneducated down there drawing $400 a month. That ain't even money for rent. Mm-hmm. It's 3 or 4 living in the house together so they can pay the rent. If the poverty line was $1,000 and my rent was at least $500, that's about the cheapest you're gonna get. When I pay my rent, I ain't got nothing to do nothing else but pay y'all down here to the city, pay the light bill, and nothing else to eat off of, nothing to buy clothes off of. See, you can sit up and talk about $170,000 affordable housing. I tell you what, affordable houses for these people out here, $170,000, not down in that area. Mm-hmm. Just like I said, God bless Habitat. I spend every little cent I can register to Habitat because that's my way of helping the people that I know. I go to Habitat every weekend, 2 days out of every week when they're over. Spend a few dollars. If I got something that one need, I give it to them. But see, y'all don't understand. Those people out there can't live in a $170,000 house. That ain't no affordable house. Affordable houses is less, even less than what had that. Thank you.
Right,
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll move down to agenda item 22, consideration of a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, real estate and/or potential litigation in accordance with OCGA 50-14-3. Is there a need to enter?
I was going to say all 3 as a joke, but
not tonight. All right. Seeing that there's no need for agenda item 22, we'll move down to agenda item 23. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.